Hello everybody, Aaron Myers here of the Everyday Language Learner, and with this video I want to bring to a close a series on planning that I've been putting together for language learners. In the first video we really talked about why it is so important to really plan for your language learning journey and not just sort of let it happen willy-nilly. In the second we talked about the big picture and kind of and then we moved into, in the last of the series, looking at the day-to-day and the week-to-week planning of making it happen. And then in this post today, I want to really focus in on individual study time, personal study time, and lesson time. Lesson time being time you'd spend with a language helper or a native speaker that is helping you to learn the language. And right away I want to just point out the main point, I guess the key principle that I want to share with you today. I want to start with that and then I'll go into more of the details. And that principle is this: if you're going to spend the time to take an hour to study or spend an hour or two with a native speaker for the purpose of really having them be a language resource for you to get into the language, to learn the language, it's really just imperative that you are able to create in that time some review systems that you can then take with you throughout the rest of your week. I see this happen so often. People spend a lot of time studying something, they get done with their lesson, done with their study time, and then they don't even see it again for 2 or 3 days. And then it's gone. It's fading already. Our short-term memory does not hold things very long. And so we need to find a way that we can take what we're learning and move it quickly and efficiently into our long-term memory. And the only way to do this is to get a lot of repetition, a lot of hearing the new words, the new grammar forms that we are learning in context. And to do that, we need to create systems that will help us in convenient, time-sensitive, and easy-to-manage ways to carry what we've been learning throughout the week with us, so that on our way home we can flip a switch and be reviewing while we're doing the dishes, before we go to bed. All those little times in the day we can easily review what we've been learning. And if we can do that, if we can create that kind of system in that time that we have as our study time, then we'll be able to just do a lot better, retain a lot more, and learn a lot more, a lot quicker. So that's the main takeaway from this video. But now I want to get into kind of the structure and how would we set up personal study time to make it the most effective and efficient time that we can have. Or how would we set up time with, like if we have a native speaker, a language helper that we are working with, so that it is just quality time. And I want to do this because I see a lot of people in my experience in living in Turkey and in talking to people who they've set up a 2-hour time or a Skype conversation with a native speaker, and they just show up. They just show up and they don't have a plan. They don't know what they're going to do, and they're just going to do conversation practice. And conversation practice is great. It is important. But I guess I'd rather, if you're setting up specific time to study or for sure to spend time with a native speaker in sort of a lesson type format, I want to see you get the most out of that time. And so I'm going to give you some ideas today for how to do that. I've got a number of posts that I've written about this in the past, and I'll put links to all of those in the notes below this post on YouTube and also on the blog where this video will be posted. So you want to check those out because those will really take you more in depth to some of the things I'm talking about. But so if we want to learn the language, we're going to need to set aside chunks of time to just do some dedicated study, listening, whatever it is. You can call it what you want, but it's time with the language. Now, in the last post about planning, I talked about creating anchors throughout your day, and those are really important, and those are going to keep you going. But they're not going to be enough to help you continually to be learning new material and really moving forward. They will definitely help you maintain, and they should definitely be the things that are reviewing in those anchor times, the things that you're listening or learning. But you want to set aside and have time for personal study. And also, I just think it's really important, even if you're taking a class, even if you're working through with a tutor, to have other time where you're just setting aside time with a native speaker of the target language, where you can come to learn the things that you're wanting to learn and that you're feeling like you need to learn. Now, just looking at the structure of how I would want to structure, kind of like if I had a 1 hour session for me to just dive into and say, this hour or 2 hours, I'm going to study Turkish. I would want to do at the beginning some review of the things I've been learning. Review of the things I've been learning, one, to get more repetition with them, to help them just make that stronger connection so they are moving from my short-term to my long-term memory, so that they're becoming a natural part of my ability to use and understand the language. Review as well to figure out what didn't I get. I think when we do that, we realize, I spent 2 hours last week working on a certain grammar form, and it's still pretty hazy. And so I want to spend some more time on it, or to know that, okay, I got this. It's pretty strong. I'm ready to move on. So one part of your lesson time or should be your study time should be spent with reviewing old material. Another part should be in introducing new material, and saying there's these new things that I want to learn. And then a third part should be creating review material to take with you. It doesn't need to be much. It doesn't need to be long. Okay, let me just take a second and give you a few ideas, of simple ideas, so that you can create this, what I call integrated review, as a part of your general plan for learning language. Okay, so you've just spent 2 hours with a native speaker, let's say, and you've reviewed some old material, you've learned some new material, and now we want to create review. There's a couple of things. Simplest way is that any of the new vocabulary, for sure, that you've come across should go into some sort of flashcard system, so that in a system that you can use. There's a couple of links to articles about that, about how to be more effective with flashcards below. But you want to put those new things into flashcards. That way, you can pull out your flashcards, can review them on the bus ride home, at night before you go to bed. If you have them and you're putting them there, you have the chance to use them. Okay. The second idea is called handcrafted audio. I've written about it as well. I'll give you a quick summary here. Handcrafted audio is this. I've learned, let's just say, for example, I've learned, a host of new vocabulary, and I've been learning a certain, let's say I'm learning a certain grammar form. What I want to do is write a basic journal entry about my life, about me, about what I'm doing. Okay, so now I'm giving it context. I'm giving it emotional connection because it's about me. Okay, we all like to write about ourselves. And then I'm going to try to use as many of the new vocabulary words that I'm learning, and I'm going to try to use as much as I can that new grammar form that I'm learning. Okay, now this won't be like authentic Turkish. People wouldn't speak like this. But what it will be is a great review piece, because you're going to, all the grammar forms are going to be used correctly. Why are they going to be used correctly? Because the key to making this happen is to review this with a native speaker to get it corrected. If you don't have someone, I'd encourage you to find someone. If it's a Skype friend or something, you could also use a program online like Lang 8 to get it corrected. But get feedback, get it corrected, and then the key then to move on from this, to really capitalize on this, is to make an audio recording with the native speaker reading your journal entry. Okay. Now, your journal entry, you'll probably spend a significant time writing it and correcting it. And when you record it, it'll probably be 30 to 90 seconds if you're writing a page or a page and a half. Okay, that's what mine were. But the great thing about that is, now I have this audio file. It's 30 to 90 seconds. I put it on my iPod along with all the others that I'm making. I put that on shuffle on the drive home, and suddenly I've got 30-second, 90-second audio recordings of things that are about my life in a voice that I'm, recognizing because it's my friend that's reading it. And I'm getting that repetition to hear all of those things that I've learned in the past. And in doing this, we really create a great system of integrating review into our daily life, especially with those grammar forms, because, man, we just need to hear them a lot for them to start to stick. And if we just watch TV, we may hear them, we may not. But if we can create handcrafted audio, we know we can hear them. We can hear them every day. We can get loads of review very quickly and very conveniently. So each lesson, each study time should have review of old material, introduction of new material, creation of review material that's easy and convenient to use. And then finally, the last thing, as much as you can, this is, I think, just hugely helpful and a good idea, is to take it to the community. I've just learned this new thing. I want to go out and use it right away. All right? What does this do for me? One, it gives me a chance to practice what's fresh in my mind, to put feet to it, to get out there and use it. It could be you just learned a new expression, okay? You walk into a store, and in Turkish we'd say kolay gelsin, something like that, a greeting, and you want to just go out and use it. It could be that you just work through how to talk about the weather, and so you're going to go out and talk about the weather with someone right away as soon as you can. So one, it gives you that repetition to begin to use it. The second reason, which I think is also maybe even more important, is it allows you to explore the language and to hear the nuances of the language. Because if you've studied language very long, you know you've learned a word from the dictionary, and you went and used it, and someone looked at you and said, "Why did you use that word? We don't ever use that word in this context. We use this word." Okay, that's the nuance of language, and it's a beautiful thing. And the only way to really learn those nuances, we can't learn those things from books very well, but we can use them when we use the language. And so go out and test things out. And I even encourage people, just like you need to have some people in your life, in your community, or Skype friends who know that you're a learner and know that you're going to be coming in and testing things out. You're going to be saying, "This is what I learned today. Use it," and they're going to be willing to say, "Oh, that's great. Yeah, that's exactly how we use it." Or, "Boy, that's kind of rude the way you said that. Maybe they say that in another region, but around here we wouldn't say it that way." Or maybe that word's really old and we'd say it this way. So by getting out in the community and using it, you give yourself a chance to discover those nuances of the language. Okay, now let's talk about within that lesson time or study time, we've got a review of old material, introduction of new material, and creation of review material. Those are going to be kind of three key things that I want to see you have in every study time and every lesson time, and I think will really help add some structure, but also really help just create a system where the language is really being absorbed. What do you learn in your lesson time? And this is another question that people often wonder about, and it's why a lot of people tend to really quickly go to a classroom setting, because the great thing about a class is the teacher introduces all the new material. And that's fine, but I think you can do it as yourself as an independent learner with a language helper as well. So you might need a guide like a Teach Yourself series or a grammar textbook for your language, something that gives you some structure and keeps introducing new material. But I think one of the things that people tend to do is they buy that book, Teach Yourself Turkish, they do that chapter, and then that's it. And I think in your lesson time, you want to just be thinking about, how can I blow that up and add pieces to that and do a lot of things around that material. And so, for example, in a grammar textbook, any kind of grammar book that you'd get for learning another language, you're going to have a core teaching, right? A core, we're going to introduce to you how we talk about the future. And then it's going to probably have some exercises, and those are great to do. But right away, you want to start to build out from that. You want to be writing, you know, lots of sentences. You want to be saying, how can I spend some time just talking and using this with my language helper, and build a robust time of getting into that grammar form or whatever it is. Maybe you're going with a topical, you know, we're talking about how to go to the bank and do that. How can we build out and build a lot deeper interaction with that particular thing that you're learning? And for this, really, I want to encourage you to stop by on the top of the Everyday Language Learner site. There's a tab called Language Learning Resources. When you go there, there'll be a box that says Language Activities, Language Learning Activities. And if you go there, it's going to give you, there's just loads and loads of ideas for things to do. And so you might, if you're working with a language helper, do something like sentence transformation drills. You might do follow the leader journaling. You might create dialogues, do dialogue generation. You can do all these things, and you just keep doing them using this same grammar form. It gives you lots of repetition. It creates a lot of great, and some of those are creating some great review pieces for you. And so you really want to cover all of your bases and really hit it from a lot of angles. Talk about it, write about it, try to read about it. You know, read a chapter from Harry Potter every time you're with a language helper, and each time you do that, underline the new grammar form. Whenever you come across it, it's an exercise in noticing, in looking for it, in being aware of it. That's going to help your brain just kind of come alive with this new thing that you're learning. And so you want to really cover a lot of bases, come at it from a lot of different directions. Now, in the last of the series, I talked about the two questions that can kind of drive what we are learning. The first is kind of for your immediate needs, is what do I need to learn to do that I'm not yet able to do in the language? And so I always just tried to have a running list of, you know, I real quickly with a phrase book, I learned kind of basic greetings, how are you, how to find the bathroom, a little bit about ordering food at a restaurant. And then I just said, what's the next thing I need to learn how to do? So as I was living in Turkey, it was like, well, everybody gets bottled water from the store on the corner, but you just call them on the phone and they bring it to you. Well, I needed to learn how to do that. So that became one of the topics of my lesson. Creating a dialogue with my language helper, learning all the new words that would allow me to pick up the phone and say, I need water, could you bring it to my house? And another time it was, I need to go set up a bank account. Okay, now I need to, that's going to be a focus of what I'm going to learn. How do I go in and withdraw money and deposit money? So that question, what do I need to be able to accomplish that I'm not yet able to accomplish, is going to be one driving force behind what you're learning. The second then is focusing more on the foundational elements. What core elements do I need to be building on? And that's all about vocabulary, grammar forms, cultural questions. You know, what do we need to be learning about the culture? And so that's kind of the slow road. We want to build that foundation and just continue to build that up. And so I want to be continually adding new vocabulary and finding ways to add new vocabulary to the vocabulary that I can actually use. I want to be continuing to add new grammar forms so that I'm able to really use all the grammar forms in the language and understand them. I want to learn more about the culture. And so those are going to be kind of the other thing that are going to drive the question, what should I be learning? Then you can go to that language activities page and figure out how can I learn. I guess last, just a few comments about time with native speakers as language helpers, time with your study time, is I just think it's a really good idea to be switching things up, to do 5 minutes of this, 10 minutes of that, to be always doing a little bit of reading, writing, listening, and speaking, because doing that, you're going to really be allowing your brain to connect with all these new things from just a little bit different direction. And it just creates that, you know, that stickier connection with new words and new forms. So it's just good too it gives you something to do to break up the time, so it's not just a 1 hour chunk of me doing the exact same thing and trying to, beat my head against the wall to get it. Well, now I'm going to do 10 minutes of this, 15 minutes of this, 5 minutes of this, and in that way can move forward. So that's a little bit about planning. Boy, if you have any questions, there's so much to think about. I guess the thing I'd really encourage you to is to read some of the posts below. They're going to be very helpful in helping you to think about that. How do I create good quality review? And then also visit the language activities page. Or you could just, on the side tab, there's if you click on knowledge on the categories, it's going to give you all the language learning activities posts I've written. And I try to write 2 or 3 articles a month that are just talking about a language learning activity, something you can do to learn the language in a creative and fun way. So check out those things. If you have any questions, I'd love to hear them in the comments below. And yeah, and then we can respond there and make this, a little bit more robust. So thank you so much for listening. If this has been helpful, again, I'd love to have you share it with your friends on Facebook or Twitter. But blessings to you on your language learning journey, and have a great day.